Hi, my name is Daniel Richter. I'm one of the HR business partners here at Frontier Airlines, and I wanted to personally welcome you to our family. Today I'm here to talk about harassment. So why do we need to talk about harassment? There's a variety of reasons we need to. For one, we're here more often than we are at home. We want to feel comfortable, we want to feel safe in our environment, and of course it's illegal. Whenever you apply for a job, you'll notice it says we do not discriminate against age, race, gender, sex, orientation, things of that nature. Those are all protected classes that are actually encompassed in harassment. So a couple really interesting facts about harassment that not everyone realizes. So harassment actually has to be something that's ongoing. I mean, it has to be something that happens more than one time. The other thing to consider is that with harassment, it's really important to know that it has to be something that's reasonable. Think about it, if you went to a judge or a jury or you went to court one day, maybe a coworker patted you on the shoulder and you said, I think I'm being harassed. A jury's probably not going to take that very seriously. So first I want to talk about sexual harassment. So there are two types of sexual harassment. There is quid pro quo and hostile work environment. Quid pro quo is Latin for this, for that. That's typically where you see kind of someone in a position of power really taking advantage of that power. So that image of a sleazy boss who says, I'll give you a promotion if you sleep with me. Something of that nature is where you see quid pro quo. There's actually one really special thing about quid pro quo that makes it different from other types of harassment. So with quid pro quo, it actually only has to happen one time. Once it happens once, it's considered illegal and actually punishable. So another important one to talk about is hostile work environment. So a hostile work environment typically occurs in obviously a office environment, and it has to be again something related to sexual nature, and it has to be something that is ongoing. So an example of a hostile work environment could be walking around a desk and someone comes by and slaps my butt. This starts to happen to me every day and it makes me very uncomfortable. It's going to create a hostile work environment. Another example could be someone with a calendar on their desk that has some pretty uncomfortable photos that you walk by. It's not something we want in our work environment. Another type of harassment is actually non-sexual harassment. So this one involves anything related to that race, gender, age, sex, orientation, something of that nature. That could be anything from a derogatory comment, treating somebody different, looking at them in a different viewpoint. Again, just really engaging them in a way that is not appropriate for the work environment. So what should you do about harassment? I think the first and most important thing to do is to ask the person to stop. Not everyone has malicious intent. Usually when you tell them, hey, this makes me uncomfortable, they're going to stop and they're going to leave you alone. Of course there's cases where they do not. That's when you talk to your supervisor, your manager, or HR. That's what we're here for. We're here to help you. And very importantly, if you feel that your life is in danger, that there's a threat of violence, please call the police. Please let our security know and we can do something to try and help you out. So that brings me to social media. So social media is incredibly important to talk about in this day and age. Everything you do on social media, anything you post online, it's there forever. And let me tell you, people are not shy to send screenshots. If you see someone getting ganged up on social media, someone's getting pushed around, getting called names, it's really important to tell them to stop that behavior. It can really hurt people. The other thing to keep in mind is when you're on Facebook, you're on Bumble, you're on Tinder, whatever you are, whatever your social media presence is, whenever you say that you work at Frontier Airlines, every statement you make online, everything you say is going to be perceived as a statement from the company, and that can really impact your future. So I want to talk about a few things that are not considered harassment. So these are things that actually get reported to HR pretty regularly, but actually don't constitute harassment. One quick example is a supervisor might be having a coaching session with their employee. It could be due to job performance, it could just be a little nudge in the right direction. A lot of times after that, that employee will come up to HR and say, my boss is harassing me. That's not always the case. It's important to know that of course we're open to feedback. We want to see how we can do things better. That's not going to constitute harassment. Another really big one that we see quite often is kind of those informal friendly gestures. That coworker who likes to laugh and talk to you and kind of touches you with their hand while they're doing that, it's not going to constitute harassment. So I think it's really important that we address bullying. This isn't something that is regularly spoken about in the workplace, but unfortunately over the last couple of years, bullying has really been on the rise in the workforce. When people hear the word bullying, they think of someone calling someone else names or pushing that person around. But bullying can really be interpreted in a lot of ways. It can be withholding information or resources from somebody. It could be picking on them or calling them names, putting them in positions that make them very uncomfortable. Bullying can really affect somebody. They don't want to come to work. They don't want to wake up in the morning. They can do something to really hurt themselves or hurt other people. So it's very, very important if you see someone being bullied, you notice it happening online, that you say something or do something about it. It can make a really, really big difference in somebody's life. So as an employee here at Frontier, you do have a responsibility in this process. If you see something, please say something. We're not able to help out with what we don't know, so please write it down. If you see something happening, jot a note down to yourself and say, hey, this has happened to me on this day, and it really, really helps us get through this process. As an employer, we have responsibilities in this process as well. If someone reports harassment to us, sexual harassment, something of that nature, we take those investigations and those complaints incredibly seriously. We're going to look into the allegation, speak to the accuser, speak to any witnesses. Whoever's being accused, of course, we will tell them what they're being accused of, but we'll not share personal information or details that would make your identity public. It's very, very important to us as an employer to ensure that confidentiality is key in all these investigations and make sure that we do our best to keep these circles knit. I know that is a ton of information. When we get together, I'll share some stories and some examples with you. It's important that we all understand what's going on, we feel comfortable reporting harassment, and we know what to do if someone does harass you.